Hi, welcome back to my deep dive garage tour, this time looking at my sports car collection. I think by now you know the format. We'll look at each car in quite a bit of detail, and it assumes you've already seen the big chill out garage tour, which is linked of course below. So let's get started. This floor is nearly all Porsches, but the first car is a Mercedes. It's the CLK DTM. Now this was a very special Mercedes. They built approximately 100 of them as homologation cars that they had to build in order to be able to enter their CLK into the Touring Car Championship. The real one has approaching 600 horsepower and is now valued, of course, extremely highly. They're mostly in silver and black, but I've made silver and black before, so I did a good old search round and I found a picture of this nice dark red one, and I think the colour suits the car really well. I forget the colour, I'm sorry, but it's a standard GTA colour. There's not a lot of customisation available on the car from memory, but it already comes out looking like the DTM anyway. It's a great car to drive. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the fastest or anything, but it is very pleasant. You can see, of course, it's been discontinued, but it's only 145,000, so I would suggest if you don't have one, just pick one up when it next comes back into Simeon's, the car meet, or whatever. I do think it is a good buy. I mean, it's so cheap. And now to the Porsches, and I think this next one looks really, really good. Based on the latest 992 version, I actually spec'd my own 4S Cabriolet, and I'm pretty sure I used Signal Green, although I took the Viper Green colour from GTAcolours.com because it was so close. Now, of course, my link doesn't give me the Porsche that I configured all that time ago, so I've looked up a picture of something similar. I think this may be Lizard Green, but you get the idea of what I was going for. This colour, of course, will work really well on a Cabrio or a hardtop one. Now, the car drives really nicely. It's not one of the tuner cars, but the hardtop orange car you see behind it is. That's also based, of course, on a 992 911, and there's a lot of talk about how the tuner ones were nerfed, they don't drive as well. So I won't talk about the driving of it here. I'm going to track battle the green one and the orange one at the end of the video, and we'll talk about the driving there. It's $1.8 million, but honestly that's not the worst thing in today's economy, and I think with it having such close to real life looks, I do think it's worth having in the garage. You may not want to go, of course, for two 992 911s like I've done here. Like all cabrios, if you do your customisation to it hood down and pop it back into the garage hood down, it will stay hood down all the time it's displayed, and I personally think that's the way to display a convertible. Of course, let's be honest, the main reason we buy a convertible is so we can watch these wonderful electric hoods going up and down. I mean, you can watch those all day. I've left the included headline in for the next car. As I say, it's very orange and it packs over 800 horsepower. So this is Manhart's version of the Porsche 911 992 Turbo S. Manhart are a tuning company, of course, and the car of course looks stunning, but it's fair to say it's probably not for shy and retiring types. As soon as I saw the article, I had to build this one in the game. It's actually possible to get pretty close. The only thing with any car that has a ring around the wheel is you're going to be limited to about 4 different wheel styles, which are at the end of the high-end wheels, so you can only really pick one of those. It's a tuner DLC car. It's about 1.9 million, and as I said before, I like the way it drives, but there are certain things to know, and we'll talk about those during the track battle at the end. Now, not only did those two cars have a load of customisation available to them, but so does the next one, which is the Growler, of course. Not too sure what to say about that, given what it's used as slang for, but it's based heavily on the latest Porsche Cayman, the 718, and of course I could only really go for the top of the tree, the GT4 RS. Now again, I spec'd my own on Porsche's website, and I'm pleased to say in this case my code still works. So here is the one I spec'd in yellow, and the one of course I've tried to copy. I think it looks really, really good. Moving on to how this car drives. Now, I would love a Cayman in real life. It really is my sort of car, and I would expect it to handle very much like a mid-engine car and not like a rear-engine car such as a 911. But in the game somehow, it's almost like the designers thought, rear engine, because that's how it handles. It feels too tail heavy to me. I mean, I could be wrong. I've never had the honour of driving a GT4 RS. But yeah, a little too tail heavy. However, it is a fun drive, and if you've got a Porsche collection, you're going to put this in. I mean, it's 1.6 million roughly plus your mods, but I do think it's well worth it, and I think it looks stunning. This next Porsche was a very limited supply car. It's the 911 GT2 RS, based on the 997 chassis, which is pretty close to what the Comet SR is based on. And they only made 500 of them, with just 40 coming to my country. Still, that's 40 more than in the game, because of course it's been discontinued. Again, I'm not going to rant about that, I've done it in the past. It came up recently as a prize ride, so it might be a while before it comes back again. Anyway, I'm extremely pleased with my build, all achievable with in-game GTA colours, and I have a real liking for this particular sort of light gold colour of wheel that is often used on some of these cars. And in fact, I use something very similar on a GT3 Cup car that you'll be seeing in another video. When you can get one, they're about 1.1 million, which makes them quite a bit cheaper than some of the preceding cars. There's a decent level of customization, and I do think it's actually one of the best driving of the Porsches in the game. You can push it on quite a bit before it goes. Now, obviously it will oversteer, and if it didn't oversteer, you would be disappointed. But no, I really do like this one. This floor is effectively heading back in time as we go, and now we're back to the 996 generation of Porsche. It's the original Pfister Comet, again discontinued, but when you can get one, if you haven't already got one, please do. They're only 100,000, and you've got nothing to lose. There's a little customization available on the car, not a lot. So to get something individual, it's going to come down mostly, of course, to things like the spoiler choice, wheels and paint. Last year I made one of the TechArt cars. It was white with red wheels, and I thought, hey, that came out rather well. So I looked again specifically for a TechArt one, and I found this one in black with orange wheels, and I think it looked really, really nice. Okay, I've used the crew black here to get the deep black. You could just use classic black as well. So a very easy and effective build. Does it drive okay for so little money? Yes. Yes, it does. Actually a really nice one to drive. Again, it's not the fastest, but overall, I think this is highly recommended. As we've gone back in time, you'll also notice the looks of the cars have deviated away more from the real car, and of course that's what we know. Rockstar have become braver later into the game. So we'll keep moving backwards with the Comet Retro Custom. Now this is still available, although of course the Comet that you need to convert, as we've just seen, is not available. Narrowing down which Porsche this most closely emulates is quite interesting. The wiki says the Rough Turbo R. I mean, that's just wrong. That's a 993 generation and looks quite different to this one. This looks more like the 964 or maybe the one that came before that. So no, it's not a Rough Turbo R. I thought it was very close to the RWB Porsches, and you can see I've made mine on the RWB 930 Turbo, and I was very pleased with the build until I researched this video. You see, the RWB, the arches, whilst widened, have been quite smoothed out. But I found there's a Porsche 934, one of the racing ones built on the 930 Turbo, and it has the bolted on arches. I think it's a spitting image, so I couldn't help myself. I've rushed off and rebuilt it. You'll see that in a second. It's only $645,000 conversion, and the car drives really, really well. A bit like one of the previous two cars we've talked about. It grips and it grips and it grips. I think Rockstar were really sort of pushing the wide tyres of this car and saying it's not going to let go. When it does, of course, it will finally oversteer. But I love it. I love it so much. In fact, we're going to use this car for the outro. Before that, the promised track battle between two seemingly identical cars, but of course the orange car, the hardtop from the tuner rep, and therefore potentially nerfed. Both cars have the same level of tuning, so it's an equal playing field. They do drive a little bit differently. The thing I noticed the most is that the green car, the Cabrio, is reasonably easy to stop going sideways, although ultimately it does feel very much like a rear engine car. Whereas the hardtop, the tuner DLC car, that will flip sideways quite a bit easier, and therefore it's harder not to oversteer, especially on the bumps. So I got my best lap quite early on in the green car, but I was pushing the orange car again and again and again to try and get that best lap. The difference in the end though was very slight, just 0.3 of a second, and this is what 0.3 of a second looks like. Not very much. So the performance is not that much nerfed, I don't think, on the tuner car, but it is the harder car to drive nicely. And certainly if I'm doing a tuner race to try to get a car that is in the car meet, then I don't take the 911, I take something like the Sultan RS Classic. So that completes the first half of my sports car deep dive. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did, because I discovered the Porsche 934, so I'm very happy about that. Of course, if you liked it or got any value, I always beg for a like to help grow the channel, a sub if you're not subbed already. Next week will either be part 2 of the sports cars, as you would expect, but I do have a new garage, just a single 10-car garage that I've done, that I also fancy popping in one Sunday evening, and if I get time, it might be that one instead, give you a little surprise. Until then, and as always, thank you so much for watching.